Welcome to the Jameson Files. I'm your host, Carrie Weber, and it's always so great to be with the Jameson community, introducing you to amazing people in our profession that are doing amazing things for dentists and teams. And I'm really happy to have Geri Gottlieb on my podcast today. Geri, if you don't know Geri and her company, GG Practice Coaching and Development, did I get it right, Geri?
You did.
Okay, good. She's doing amazing things and has been in the dental industry for, goodness, almost 30 years?
32.
Over 30 years. So, doing great things throughout that history.
Started in ortho.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is a woman that if you don't know this person, you need to know this person. If for nothing else, then if you need a good dose of energy in your life, Geri's the person to bring it to you. So Geri, thank you for being with me today. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. As soon as I got the invitation, I said, of course I'm going to spend time with Carrie. Are you kidding?
I have a feeling this conversation may go off the rails at least 3 times, but I'm going to love every minute of it.
Exactly.
So obviously I need to learn a little bit more about your story into dentistry too. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about how you started, how you found yourself where you are today. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff in that journey.
So I was recruited into my first dental practice, which was an ortho practice, while I was in college pursuing a degree in psychology with a minor in music.
Oh my gosh!
I know, Miss Singer. We are twins. Like we are spirits.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I was working full time for Macy's. It wasn't Macy's at the time, so I'm from Seattle area, and at the time it was actually called the Bon Marché, the Bon, and then the Macy's bought them out. But I was managing a Clinique cosmetic counter and going to school. And one day I was helping a gentleman with skincare products, and he said, I want you to come work for me.
Wow.
And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm a dentist. And do you know that little Christmas story cartoon thing where the little elves and the one little elf that wants to be the dentist? And then he says that at the table and everybody goes, dentist. This is what's happening in my brain. And I'm like, I have teeth. I go to the dentist. What? I never had it ever been a thought in my brain of possible career choices or jobs that I would look to have. And he said, I'm an orthodontist and I'm opening a practice, and I could train you to be an assistant and do, everything I could train you to do everything I need you to do, but I can't train you to be you. And I thought, well, I got to really think about this. And I was newly married at the time, and I said, well, tell me a little bit more. And he said, well, come visit the practice, kick the tires, see what it's like. Here's what I knew. They worked 4 days a week, no evenings or weekends. And my whole life, and even going to school, right, I was working in retail.
Yes.
And working that evenings and weekends and holidays. So for me, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, this sounds very cushy.
And he said, and you could still finish school. I'll work around it. And I was like, okay. Long story short, I started off as an assistant. Couple of really unexpected things happened, Carrie. One is I fell in love with dentistry. I fell in love with watching people's lives change, countenances changed. I fell in love with having relationships that, with patients that were coming in, and then you seeing them again. Team, I'd never really done team sports or things like that. So I was loving that aspect of it. About 6 months in, I don't know where it was. Time. This is 32 years ago now, so the time framing it could have been 6 weeks, it could have been 6 months. But at some point, this doctor says to me, Geri, do you have a few minutes after work today or tomorrow, whatever, planning to sit down, and I'd like to talk about how it's going. So basically a review. And I was like, yeah, of course. And so we sit down and he said, "How do you think it's going?" And I start just jabbering on about all the things I think are so great and that I love, and I love being there. And he said, "And we love having you here.
Mm.
And assisting is not your gift."
Okay.
And so I thought, like, here's my I thought,
Yeah.
I'm getting fired.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, we tried it,
Yeah.
whatever. And he said, "But if you're willing, um, would you consider the role of treatment coordinator?"
Oh, wow.
It turns out I was really good at that. So I said, of course. And, you know, fast forward, then I became a practice manager, went on to work in other, practices and then other disciplines in dentistry.
Yes.
But perio didn't come into the picture until my 21st year in dentistry at that point. So, I continued my education, but I also dove in to dentistry,
Mhm.
loved everything about it. And I was pretty fortunate to get to work with and in practices that truly were about continuing education, growing and developing people, which was right up my alley because my
Yes.
degree in psychology was meant to be child development.
Yeah.
I wanted to work with teenage and preteen girls.
Wow. Wow.
And because I really just wanted to help. Back then at 18, I was,
Mm.
or no, I wasn't, that was back when I decided that's what I was going to do at 18. It was, how can we work together better? Why do we
Yes.
have to compete with each other? Why aren't we
Mm.
just working together on things and helping each other have better lives and be better? So I thought, well, I'll catch them when they're young and train
Yeah.
them through high school and get them, whatever.
I'll fix this early.
So fast forward, I'm in practice management, over in practice administration, big practices, little practices,
Mhm.
and was divorced, 2 little girls, and was a part of the Seattle Study Club with
Mhm.
one of the practices I was managing. We were Seattle Study Club members, and it was through the Seattle Study Club that I met my periodontist husband. Um, and I did not work for him or them. I did not. I wasn't their coach or none of that.
Yeah.
We met through the Seattle Study Club, and I had already started my journey into coaching. And
Mm.
at the same time, Carrie, I had gone back to school to get a master's in psychology
Wow.
because I thought I had to leave dentistry. I thought,
Mm.
as a single mom, was going to raise these 2 girls. I wanted them to go to college. I wanted them to not have to work through college and those sorts of things. So I thought, I got to do some more things, which is sort of like right at the same time as when I started going into consulting coaching
Mhm.
because I was going to school. And one of my mentors said to me, "What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with
Mm.
that master? Are you leaving dentistry? An
Mm.
industry that you know and love?" And I was like, I don't know. And she said, "Why can't you do what you want to do in the industry that you already know and love?"
Yes.
So that's how I stepped into the
Wow.
consulting and coaching arena. I proxy got into the perio, and I actually never worked in the practices.
Oh, wow.
I coached the
Yeah.
leadership team of those practices,
Yes.
but
Yes.
never actually worked in them.
I think your story is so fascinating from the perspective of that orthodontist is like the story that all of us that teach doctors on building a strong team and hiring and also leading a team. He checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
He found a person with didn't have dental experience but had the potential or had the characteristics that would make
Yeah.
a tremendous team member in the culture of their practice. And then you weren't in the right seat.
Right.
And he saw that and so he knew, good to great. He had the right team member on the bus, but in the wrong seat. And he
Yes.
put you in the right seat, and the rest is history. Which that's a pretty phenomenal story. I'm sure you share that story a lot with teams and doctors because that's the ticket right there. If doctors can have this aha moment as a business owner of hire the talent, make room to train talent
Yes.
in your culture and in your practice,
Yes.
and then have this awareness of the talent on your team and make sure you have the right people in the right places so that everyone can thrive. I mean, you're the story.
Correct. Right. And which actually then stepping out, so practice management, right? And thinking, and then I'm going in, yeah, I'm going to be a consultant. I know all the things. I'm good. Look at me. I'm real good at all the things too, by the way. And when I stepped into ownership shoes,
Mm,
and it was like a gut punch
mhm,
of and all this awareness that I had no idea what I didn't know,
mhm.
and how hard it is to be,
Yes.
the practice owner, the dentist, and be a great leader and a great practitioner, and.
Yes.
So between what you just said, Carrie, and my own stepping into those shoes and seeing it from this this 10,000-foot view, as well as having been on the ground, I was like, we I've got to help not just build leadership,
Mhm,
teams, like
mhm.
it was done for me, and even more than that, to help teams develop
Yes.
and be so strong around their doctor owners
Yes.
that we don't even know who that boss is, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
And,
because I had that, so
and you know that the direct experience of being the team member and being the owner, that the level of empathy and understanding that gives you is pretty powerful. I'm sure you experience that on the daily because
on the
um
daily. Well, I think it's helpful for teams to know that story about me.
yes.
And Kim, my associate, because she also had worked for Bob and
Mm,
Michael, and like I've been in your seat. I've been in all the seats
yes.
except the clinical ones because I'm not good at those.
You tried.
I
You
tried
tried.
so hard. But I can clean a room. I'll tell you what, I can clean a room and clean your instruments up, no problem. Um, but just don't let me work on anybody. Wrong. Um, and now, then I've stepped into ownership shoes, and then I went another step, that which was already pretty devastating awareness. And I actually went back and apologized to a couple doctors, owners that I worked for, that I
Mm,
was supposed to be their right hand and
mm.
know the things. And I was just as snarky and poopy sometimes behind their backs as teams are
Yeah.
sometimes, right? Because I didn't know, I didn't
Mhm,
understand what
mhm.
it's like to be that. But then
Yes.
take a next step and go ahead and launch your own company and
Mhm.
be the company.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I just didn't know. So here's what I'd like to do to make amends for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to develop teams, but we got to let teams know,
Yes.
right? We got to let them know.
I think that's such a good point that, Brene Brown talks about this all the time, the author,
Mhm.
and, she talks about vulnerability and in leadership and I think that's really hard for doctors and even, you and I both have conversations with doctors all the time as they're considering bringing in a coach or it's a real vulnerable step and a lot of times I have a feeling I don't know all that there is to know about what you do one-on-one with your clients, but I have this feeling, my sister,
Yes,
that
my
there's
sister.
some similarities of trying to encourage them to be more transparent
Yes,
with their teams.
yes.
Exactly to your point, Jerry, it's if you want if any part of you as a practice owner or a leader, for anyone that's listening that are in those roles, if any of you desire a culture that is a group of leaders building up leadership within your team to believe in where you want to go, helping you go there, taking responsibility and a sense of ownership in that,
Yeah.
there has to be a level of transparency and vulnerability in your leadership for you to ever get to that place. Now, people can go ahead and come at me in the comments and disagree, but I feel pretty strongly about this. when it's hard, you think they don't know it's hard. When, when you're stressed out and struggling, you don't think they already know. And so it's, to have that kind of openness, vulnerability of even sharing the things you don't know the solutions to, and asking for them to help you find those solutions can be so powerful.
Yes.
For the culture of the practice.
Yes.
Is that something that you work on with clients as well, and with doctors and teams?
100%. I'm going to flip it just a little bit as well. 100%. And then I, of course, ask them to be as transparent as they feel comfortable being.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I know. And this is not just my own life, but it's, the last 11 plus years of coaching. So it's some empirical data that I have as well that says the more we as the team understand about every piece of the business and the practice, and the more you, doctor owner, can say, here's what I'm really good at, and here's the stuff I'm not good at. And so here's where the flip comes. It's for me also helping the teams see that just what I used to have the wrong glasses on.
Yes.
I used to think, what is wrong with my doctor owner? Why are they so not good at communication? Why are they not good at, managing the team? Why, do they get upset, but they haven't said anything? Or, all of these different pieces. And I also teach and say, look, we don't know. We expect them to know all the things. How can they know all the things? And how can they be the practitioner and do all the things?
Yes.
So instead of putting all of that weight on the doctor owner, let's us grow and take on some of that. And like you said, then the ownership piece, and what does that feel like? And what if I can control this myself instead of asking my doctor to make me happy? What if I can do some things that make us all happier or make things easier? So
the we should know or they should know is such a trap.
Such a trap. And I used to think that.
It's such a trap. Doctors are trapped in it thinking, well, I should know this. I should already know this. I should be able to do this. And then to your point, team members feel the same way. My doctor should be able to do this. My doctor should act this way. Should know this. And I had a personal leadership coach. We used to call that shooting all over ourselves.
Well, yes.
We were shooting all over ourselves. Yes. Thanks, Gail Canner, for that one. But it's such a trap that we get ourselves into. And I think there's a tendency on the doctor side, because they're doctors, right? We're so highly educated already. These are things that should just come naturally to me.
Right. And how come they don't? And so then what we don't realize is that then they also are struggling with imposter syndrome and all these other things that we do too. And we think that they certainly are not, but they are. The difference being they aren't as vocal or feel as comfortable or safe to share it with us. And when you think about behavioral styles, I don't know, I'm sure you do use some form of assessment for behavioral and communication styles. We use DISC. Okay, so and most of our clinicians, right? They're in that little bottom half. Typically, a few are up in the the D dominant scale, especially the oral surgeons. But otherwise, so we're already more introverted, more inclined to be like, well, hang on, and I should. And on these little boxes. I help them just like, no. And I want the team to be like, no. What?
Yeah. You said something, you dropped the term imposter syndrome, and that rang a memory for me. You were at ADOM, at the ADOM annual meeting. Was it this last year?
I know.
And were you not working with some of in your classes for the office managers on that specifically and so it's not just the doctors that struggle with that, right? And you were working with office managers specifically at the ADOM annual meeting. Tell me a little bit about that and how that has found its way into your passion of what you're working on with dental professionals.
Well, of course, the buzzword has been running around, right? Imposter syndrome. And so for me, it was, what is this? And then as soon as I started diving into imposter syndrome, not only do I'm like, oh, well, there am I. Yep, I got that one, and that one. I was like, well, this is what holds us back from being the best leaders we can be, to being better managers, and the difference between managing and leading. And if we suffer from that, and I decided I was going to be pretty vulnerable myself and share a poem that I have framed in my office here that it's like, people look at us, or we look to our office managers like they should have all this confidence, or they do have confidence, or it seems like they're very confident. But why this, and this, and why are we struggling with this, and why are we burning out? Right. So I really wanted to dive into what is imposter syndrome, and then what are the different types? How does it show up? How does it show up in our leadership? How does it show up in our relationships? How does it show up in us taking a step towards the next level in our future, or whatever we want to do? And so that was mostly focused on the managers, to be honest, when I started that process. Because I want to grow and develop people, and I definitely want to grow and develop practice managers and people to surround our doctors. But then I was like, well, wait a minute. We're not the only ones that suffer with this.
Yes.
Our doctor owners do as well. And I mean, the data shows that, men suffer from imposter syndrome close to the same amount that women do.
That's interesting.
But we'll talk about it way less.
I can believe that.
Right? Almost never. And almost never. And they don't even realize, like I call it, like, let's use one, the superhero. That's an imposter, right? The superhero manager who is, I do all the things and nobody can live without me. And, my desk has all the stickies all over it, or here I come to save the day for everybody and the doctor and all the things all the time. That's actually not healthy leadership or management. And we do that because we feel like if we're not doing all of the things amazingly well, we're an imposter and we shouldn't have this role.
Right. Yeah.
So I use it to break down, like, where does it get in trouble? Where do we get in trouble in how we lead and manage, and then how we are not growing other leaders and managers by thinking we have to do all the things ourselves, or thinking everything has to be perfect.
Yes.
You and I were talking earlier. All the bells and whistles, and we think, do we have to do a podcast? We have to have this. We got to have professional microphones. We got to have all the things before we can actually just sit down and talk like
yes. Yeah.
And I used to suffer from that too. Like, I gotta have this, I gotta have this, I gotta this, and I gotta take 700 hours of instruction on this thing. I gotta be an expert before I can actually just use my voice to talk about it.
That's right.
And for me, I was like, no, we gotta just stop this.
Yeah, I mean, that is so powerful when you think about, when you think about professional development for anybody, no matter, whoever's watching or listening, whatever, even if you're in dentistry, if you're not in dentistry, if you're an assistant, if you're an office manager, if you're the doctor, professional development is twofold. It's working on as a team on developing the skills for your business.
Yeah.
But it's also working on yourself. And, when you see as many dental team members and doctors and practices, Geri, as you and I and our teams have, that there's not a specific behavioral style or person that fit a superstar.
Correct.
I think a superstar is born out of someone that embraces both of those things. Yes. And finds their fulfillment in their work when they pursue team excellence and development and personal excellence and development. And because imposter syndrome, that's a personal thing. And you can learn every system, every skill set, every software, every clinical technique. But if you have a deeply rooted imposter syndrome issue happening that you don't work on, you're never going to get to the pinnacle of whatever it is you're striving for, because you're going to hold yourself back, perhaps unknowingly.
Correct.
And so I think that's just so powerful that you're digging in and working with teams on that specifically, because they have to get freed from the things that they're holding themselves back on in order to be their best at the things they're working on for their careers.
100%. And I think what I find often is people don't even realize they're doing it.
Yes.
They don't even, and they hadn't put the language to it yet, but they don't even realize that what they're doing, either by being trying to be a superstar, or do all the things, or take all the excessive CE, or do those things that that's what they just don't even know that they're doing it, and then
Yes.
the implications of that. But one of the other things you said that I love is, because I'm a high I. So those of you who know D, I'm an ID with a lot of C hidden in there. I'm a little data nerd. So that's my secret thing that people don't really realize. And it can appear like you, Carrie, right? It can appear just by way of our behavioral style and communication style, we're like super confident. And we must just like, oh, we're so this, or you're so that. And I get people like, oh, I mean, I'll never be able to, like, I guess a leader has to be more like you. Like, zero. It takes all types, all styles. It's just that, and this is from Brene Brown, who you are is how you lead.
Yes.
So if you're more introverted and quiet, but you have your work to overcome those imposter pieces, there's a great place for you as a leader,
yes,
and a teacher, and all of those things. You don't have to be like, you know, my style of leading is maybe more high energy and let's have fun with this, but I'm still holding to expectations and what have you. But that's my style.
Right.
It doesn't make me a better leader or a worse leader than anybody else.
And you know, we can learn. We can learn and develop from the different behavioral styles. So, you know, I actually need quiet, introverted, detail-oriented leaders that thrive in the details.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
Same.
And so I need those people to hold me accountable and to lead me.
Yep.
And if I can help lead from my behavioral styles for them, that's where synergy happens, is when we all embrace ourselves, work on the other ones. You know, I need to work on being detail oriented. I need to know how to communicate with a more reserved person so I don't absolutely send them off a cliff.
Right.
And recognize, you know, that's all the magic of understanding different behavioral styles, right? Is knowing how we can be present with a person in the most effective way, but also where we're strong, where we're weak, where we can improve. If you believe in continuously developing and improving and bettering yourself, there's magic in understanding your psychology, right? And the psychology of others. And it's so powerful, especially in dentistry, where, you know, so much about dentistry is relationship, communication, building trust. And that all falls in that realm of understanding how to talk to people and presence and how to bring your best to every conversation. Right. So I can only imagine.
Yeah, and how to leverage the people around you that are different than you to also do those things.
Yes. I mean, so powerful, Geri. I would love to sit in one of your classes and
I would love to
gobble up all of your passion and all of the things that you've been studying and learning and teaching. How do people find you? Tell me where people can find where you're speaking next, or how to learn more about your company or about you.
Well, so listen, social media, of course, reluctantly, I am somewhat of a presence on social media, but really I let somebody else who likes to do those things handle it for us, because they know my voice, right? They know, and they know that if something is going to go out, if they're questioning whether or not, does this sound like Geri or something that we say here. But you can find me on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and it's Geri Gottlieb or GG Practice Coaching and Development. You can email me, Geri at GG Practice Coaching and Development. Go to our website. I will be speaking next at ADOM.
Oh,
but this time, I know this time it is really special for me, actually. I have been invited to speak with and at the Spouses
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to talk about that journey a little bit. And then even, so from my journey into that, but also what do I see as a coach in those spousal relationships within and without the practice, and some things maybe we could avoid and help do better.
I love that.
Really spend a lot of time on site with clients, Carrie, because
Mhm.
that is my obsession. My clients and the teams are my obsession. Speaking comes with
Yes.
doing what we do, and that's lovely. And I love to have impact. So if I can have opportunities to do that, then I say yes to those. And if it's not, then I don't think it's going to be impactful, then I say no,
Yeah.
because I'm busy hanging out with my clients.
Oh, I love that. Lucky clients. And gosh, Geri, your passion and your energy, it's just contagious. And
Carrie, vice versa.
I think we could talk for forever about this. We barely even scratched the surface. So I do hope those of you that are listening that you'll go find Geri, go take a class, go find her online. And
Geri, I should say I know you do some too. We are doing some leadership development classes, specifically intimate small groups for would-be and current and at any level office managers.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
so find Geri on their website, ggpracticecoaching.com. Is that right?
ggpracticecoaching.com. Yeah.
Okay. And go learn more about what they're doing out in the world. And Geri, you're the best. Thank you so much for being
Carrie,
a guest today.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. I'm wishing you all the best. Go do something to help improve your careers and go out there and live the healthiest, happiest lives that you can. Until next time, be well.
All right.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Jameson Files. Visit us online at jmsn.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or Spotify. See you next time.